Hello, everybody. Here I am back again. This is a Bitcoin only video with a focus on gold. And why do we care? Well, I'm going to use gold as a mirror for us to see what's going to come next for Bitcoin. And it's very exciting. Very exciting. So let's get into it. Big thank you to the mods in chat. Sean D, T&D, American Base Humor. The whole gang is here. K8. Wow. The safest chat on the whole planet with these people. Anyway, let's get into it. This one's called Bitcoin's golden floor. What I mean by that is the growth in the price of gold because of the accumulation by central banks, because people see a fourth turning and Orwellian stuff happening around the world and fiat debasing and long end of the bond being destroyed. All that stuff that you know about puts in a new floor for Bitcoin. And we're going to try identify exactly what that floor is. And it's really good news. And by the way, Bitcoin is wild today. Tesla's wild. Everything's wild. Let's just check on the Bitcoin price. Bitcoin up at one stage over $4,000 today. And that's on top of over $4,000 yesterday. $8,000 move in 48 hours. On Sunday, it was under 110 grand. Now it's just shy of 118. Wild how risk happens so fast. But enough of that. Let's get into the story. And thank you all for coming. Oh, by the way, we're in October as well. What a great month to be alive. And then Moonvember, if history repeats, we're all going to be very happy. But then we need to be very humble and very disciplined. So please, please, please remember that. And you know what to do if you want to stay on the right side of where we are. And this is not financial advice. And a big thank you to everybody on Patreon. Love your Patreon. Best investment education I've ever made. Woohoo. Thank you so much. I believe in you too. That's first. Before we jump in, I want to check in on where we are with the top and bottom indicator. We had a few little adjustments to the actual model, especially around hash rate. And that has had a tiny, tiny impact. Remember, this is a composite model of 21 different on-chain indicators fed in real time. But we are yellow right now. We're nowhere near orange, dark orange, or red. We are still completely tepid / lukewarm, whatever you want to say. We are 5% away from Bitcoin's all-time high. And the top and bottom indicator is like B flatline. There is no overheating in this market so far. So that's just setting the stage of where we are. Now, let's talk about Bitcoin price projection. Bitcoin targets are now 150K per coin. I used to say 118 would have been great. We got that. But now I'm getting more and more bullish and easily see a 3 trillion market cap for Bitcoin, 150K price. And this is also a little bit of inspiration for this as well. It's from James Check, because his guy's normally very conservative, almost sometimes a little bit bearish. And he's like super bullish, long cycle, 150K price is wild. But it's making me even more bullish. I've always been bullish, but now a little more because of the mirror we're going to look at. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about gold, but then I'm going to come back to Bitcoin. So be patient with me. This is important because basically this is the mirror of where we're going to go. Gold since 2024 is up 108%. Silver up 115%. These two puppies have never been on such a rampage in the history of the world. We'll look at that again. Literally skyrocketing, okay? Best performances ever. Precious metals are shining as if, not that there's going to be huge demand for gold and silver jewelry. No, precious metals are exploding because the fiat world is imploding. That rhymes, actually. I should repeat that one. I should write that down. Remember it again. Also, gold, it just slightly missed it by like $5. But $3,900 an ounce from Kobasi. At this rate, $4,000 could happen within a matter of days. Or definitely in a month. I mean, because accumulation is still happening, okay? And again, this is a Bitcoin story, so be patient with me. Central banks think they need to dump all their US treasuries, all their fiat treasuries, all their bonds, and they need to stack gold. And gold as a percentage of foreign reserves has eclipsed US treasury holdings for the first time in more than 30 years. We're going to talk about a lot of things that have not happened in 30 years, 50 years, etc. This is truly a historic time we're living through. Markets are going wild. Macro sucks. Job market sucks. What is going on? Well, the other stuff to prove. The gold stacking is still underway because people are afraid. 95% of central banks expect gold reserves to rise in the next year, according to a World Gold Council survey. Of course, they're like gold shields. They're going to say that bullish stuff. But a record 43% plan to boost their holdings. 73% expect USD reserves to drop. This is a massive problem for Scott Bessent. Hey, Scott, if you're listening, I know your pain. That's why you need stable coins. So they'll buy your treasuries. I get it. I still live for the day we get a Bitcoin backed stablecoin. That'd be awesome. Anyway, the point is, this is not slowing down. But these central banks do not know there's a better gold out there. And that's the wild thing. Can you imagine what would happen if they did? Woohoo! Talk about off to the races. And gold RSI hits the highest level in 50 years. Okay? In simple terms, that's code for it's the most overbought in 50 years. But as I said before, they're not slowing down, okay? It's going to continue to be overbought. So RSI can stay high for a long time. And because of the insane monetary debasement that exists on the planet, gold is still, if you debase it properly, going back the last 50 years for the growth in money supply, it should be trading at 9,850, not 3,900 or 4,000. It should be 2.5 times that price. So it's still cheap, okay? Remember, this is the canary in the mine we're looking at to price Bitcoin, okay? So it is wild. Now, central bank flows over time, weird things. Sometimes it's the Australian banks sold at the bottom. You got Europeans, they sold in the 2000s. And then Russia and China started stacking after the global financial crisis. Like, yeah, this fiat stuff and markets are kind of scary. But then in 2020, after you know what happened, we won't talk about, when SWIFT confiscated monies, then other parts of the world went nuts. BRICS, Russia, China, all started stacking gold like there's no tomorrow. And now other central banks are beginning to follow around the world. China's gold accumulation has been insane. Over this year, they have bought between 80 to 90% of all the gold that was for sale. Over the last 9 months, absolutely incredible, because they need this as a financial hedge, and they're moving away from U.S. Treasuries. So as they dump U.S. Treasuries, they're buying gold as quickly as they possibly can. So it is wild. And in terms of the narratives so far, the themes for 2025 from Bank of America Global Research, gold miners up 116% year to date. They normally suck, but they've outperformed gold, which is impressive, and uranium as well, 83%. And you see other stuff like rare earths, AI, blockchain, etc. down the line. Again, that's their own measure, but it doesn't exactly point directly to an actual asset itself. Now, get back to this 150K. Let's do some what-if analysis of where the Bitcoin price could go, considering where we are. All right? I shouldn't... Listening to somebody who says all right all the time, now it's rubbed off on me, so I'll try not to say that again. Gold has historically, for 5,000 years, been a true meter of value, okay? But there is a new meter of value, and that's gold 2.0. And gold has smoked top equities so far year to date. It's smoked Bitcoin. And rising gold prices also tell us, again, another mirror or canary in the mine, that there's a problem with fiat. There's a problem with long-dated treasuries. There's a problem with debasement. There's a problem with inflation. And the way the central banks know how to deal with that is to buy gold. That's what they've done for hundreds of years. Now, let's look at where gold is. Gold has now a $26.2 trillion market cap. A lot of people talk about, okay, well, when Bitcoin hits $1 million, it'll have parity to the market cap of gold, which was 20 trillion. Okay, so 20 million Bitcoins times a million gets you approximately $1 million of Bitcoin. But now, as the market cap of gold keeps going up, Bitcoin has to follow. It historically has followed. We'll show you some charts on that in a second. But now, if we do hit that parity, the price of Bitcoin would be 1.3 million. And gold now has 11.4x times the market cap of Bitcoin, which is normally 10x or so, but it's gone really high. So we know it's only a matter of time before Bitcoin follows. And again, let's look at some numbers here that make this really interesting. Again, shout out to James Check, who is the inspiration for this. He believes gold and Bitcoin, basically, Bitcoin should ultimately target 8 kilograms of gold. By the way, try carry 8 kilograms of gold to an airport. Very difficult to do. Not that I've ever tried it. That is 257.21 ounces times the current price of nearly 4,000, just for simplicity, 4,000, gets us to $1.028 million. Okay, that's the metric of where the price of Bitcoin ultimately will go, because it's better than gold. It's scarcer than gold. It's more portable than gold. It's more divisible than gold. It's just better across 8 different factors of what is money. But as gold keeps going up, I get more and more excited about where we're going to go next. Now let's talk about the SBR, Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. This is a promise made by the government. We don't know if it's going to happen or not. We'll look at some probabilities that. But what is interesting is how strategic gold could become, because all of a sudden, China and Russia and even India have bought up a lot of the gold. US has a lot of gold, but they don't have as much as these other players right now. So the US holds about 8% of the global above ground gold stock, and that is a significant bag of gold. But approximately 33% of the total Bitcoin supply is held within the US. That 33% means MicroStrategy, IBIT, FBTC, Americans that hold Bitcoin, etc. So a third is held by this country. It only has 4% of the population, but it has 33% of the Bitcoin. The US has 4% of the population, but only 8% of the gold. The government, that is. The other one is kind of everybody. So let's think about where we could be if the US wanted to match their bags. It's like, okay, we got a lot of gold. Let's try build the same type of position here. Thank you, DBF, by the way. Appreciate you coming. The US holdings 8.133 tons of gold. That's 261.5 million ounces. Don't even ask me how many grams are in an ounce, because I don't know, but I do know how much a ton is. The world supply of gold is 36,782 tons of gold. And remember, the supply grows by about 2% per year. If you want more, you dig a little bit deeper. Now that the price is higher, the gold miners are more incentivized to dig deeper and get more gold. So the inflation of gold would probably increase as the supply increases. But anyway, the US share of that is 22.1% and worth about $1 trillion, which is a lot. But the US government adds about $1 trillion in debt every 10 weeks at this stage. So, a government is shut down now as well. So maybe they're saving a few dollars. But anyway, it's wild to think about these numbers. And the US holdings of gold is about 190, of Bitcoin is about 198,000 Bitcoin. There are 19.92 million Bitcoin, and the US share is about 0.99%, worth about 23 billion. So if you look at the delta between 1 trillion and 23 billion, the US basically, compared to their gold bag, they own no Bitcoin. Then I asked myself, what happens if they wanted to be on par with their gold bag? How much Bitcoin would they need to buy? Could they even get there? We'll see. Actually, hang on a second. That's this question. What if USA matched its gold share in Bitcoin? To get to 22% of Bitcoin, they would need 4.4 million Bitcoin, and that's over 20 times more than it has now. And the cost today would be $500 billion. And at 10x the price, it'll be 5.1 trillion. So again, when you see these numbers, and we're still early, you can understand why some clever people within the US administration want to build a Bitcoin reserve, because they don't have all the gold. They've missed that boat. The Chinese and the Russians, etc., have been buying up all the gold over the last few years. It's very hard to catch them, especially now at the price of gold. But they can catch up with them with this new gold 2.0 much faster. Now, what happens if the price does go up to 10x? Okay, Bitcoin would be worth about $1.16 million each, and the US holdings would be worth $231 billion. Still, That's less. That's a 23% of $1 trillion. And again, the share of global Bitcoin supply doesn't change unless they buy more. So the point is, when you see this and you see governments, nation states, I mean, if I was an authoritarian within, say, an oil producing country, I would just sell all my oil for Bitcoin right away and stack as much as I possibly could to get that edge. Now, let's look at another couple of key charts, which tells us why I believe we are going higher for Bitcoin. We've seen a massive run over the last 48 hours, but there's a lot more to come. Not only is the Tabby model lukewarm, but the Bitcoin gold ratio is 30 ounces per Bitcoin. And the all-time high is 41 ounces per Bitcoin. Okay, this is the pair chart of Bitcoin divided by gold measured in ounces. So you can see we've been down low. We've been down around 8 or 9 for a lot of the time. We've been up as high as 41 and everything in between. But we're basically exactly level 5 on the ATR model, which means it's only a matter of time before we go back to an all-time high, back to level 6, which means 41. Now, if the price of gold stays at, say, 3,900 or 4,000, I think it's going higher because the central banks are buying. This pushes the floor of Bitcoin up. And this is what's exciting. If we go back to all-time high ratio of 41 ounces per Bitcoin, that takes the price to exactly, based on today, $159,900 per Bitcoin. From this makes me very confident, with a high degree of confidence, like 60 to 80%, that we could easily get to $150,000 Bitcoin because of the action we are seeing on gold. And let's look at a little bit of history in gold before we go talk to the most important chart of the day. Gold has been on an absolute rampage. We've seen all these different situations over time. Since the gold standard era of the 1920s, nothing really happened to gold. But every major crisis sent prices higher. 1933, Executive Order 1602, where they could confiscate your gold. Gold went, I think, higher after that. Bretton Woods, 1944, gold went higher, but nothing like today. The end of Bretton Woods, 1971, that's when the early rampage began. 1979, Iranian Revolution, then the 2008 financial crisis. But look at where we are right now. Since C19, chopped sideways for a while, didn't really do anything. But over the last 18 months, it has gone wild. Up from 2K to 4K, doubling. And again, it's a very old-fashioned asset, but for it to make that type of jump in such a short window of time is wild. Now, back to a couple more charts. This one is exciting. Never showed so many gold charts in my life, but it's a window to where we're going. This is from Documenting Sailor, every single gold rally over the last 15 years has ended with a Bitcoin super pump. I won't say Supercycle, I don't like that term, but definitely a super pump. So you can see gold rallies first, the yellow line at the bottom. And then in percentages, of course, Bitcoin is a much faster horse. So it goes on a huge rampage. And we see those rampages here as well, going back all the way from the first one, 2015, straight up to 2018. Then we had a gold rampage, 2020 to 2021. And then Bitcoin went to rampage right when that ended. And now we're seeing the third big gold rampage. And maybe, we're not sure, money flows into Bitcoin. But every gold rally ends with what I call this Bitcoin super pump. We'll see if we get it this time. We'll see if history repeats. And finally, regarding the SBR, is it even possible? Is it a pipe dream? Well, the administration wants it to happen. Can they shoehorn it into 2025? It's not looking likely. It'll take time. There's only a 14% chance of it now based on Polymarket. But the US has a chance to beat the world to the punch by getting Gold 2.0 stack built first. Or any other nation state that's listening, I don't care. Go print your money and buy that hard asset as quickly as you can. That is the mirror to the future that I see. And every time gold goes up, I don't even have any gold, but it makes me excited. I hope you feel the same. Chino Kim as well. Thank you for coming. I want to just thank everybody. Dude Travels, Steve-O, Happy Feet. Happy Feet, haven't seen you in a while up there in Canada. Michael Keynes, DBF 430, and Chino Kim. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you to our wonderful moderators in the chat. That was the harbinger of things to come. Very bullish. Welcome to October, my friends. Then Moonvember, and then we'll slow down in December if history repeats. Thank you all. Have a good night.